Hi, parents. The road ahead is looking kind of rough when you think about the conflict that we have between sending our kids to school or going to work. During this time period when some school districts are having to make tough choices about keeping kids at home, working online, having the kids come to school for what we call a hybrid model. And so we think that the road ahead is a little bit difficult for both parents and for employers. And so we've been thinking about the problem. And here's what we think. We know that you want to educate your child. We know that if your child stays home, that's educating your child is an important concept, an important thing that you want to get done. But we also know that you need to head off to work and get to work to make money for your household. So you're kind of caught in this pinch point, this dilemma, if you will. And so as we've been thinking about it, the impact of that problem, and we've tried to put ourselves in your shoes because we're parents as well, and we think about these things for our employees as well as the employees in our community as well as and the employers in our community. So here's how we see it shaping up in terms of an impact. As a parent, you want to stay at home with your kids and make sure that school gets done. We know that maybe your homework skills maybe are not what they used to be when you were in school, but we also know that you care about your children and that you want to be home with them to help them along, whether you're helping them get online, helping them with Zoom meetings, whatever it is, helping them with homework. You probably need to be at home when they're at home so you can help them. But we also know the trade-off is you might lose your job, because if you're at home doing that, how can you be at work working? You might point out, late to work, that sort of thing. Or you can make a different choice where you leave your kids and school might get done, but school might not get done either, or it might not get done well. Yes, you keep your job, but it's at a sacrifice of the quality of vacation at home with your kids. So as we've been thinking about the problem and the impact of that problem, we've come up with a solution. This is only for a short time period, but we think it's a solution that you'll be able to implement on your own. And here's maybe another way to look at the problem as we've been looking at it, and that is, wouldn't it be nice that you could leave your kids so school gets done and you can keep your job? That's what we've been thinking about. So we've developed this model. It's called APP, and I'm going to show you how that works and kind of walk you through it a little bit here in the next few minutes just to give you an idea. So APP is an acronym. It stands for Academic Proxy Pod. APP, Academic Proxy Pod. And basically it's a parent-driven solution that groups together kids together in a small group or a small gathering, a pod. Okay, so it's a small group of kids and it's parent-driven. Let's talk about some of the basics on how it works. Now, this is not in great detail, but this will give you an idea of some of the who, where, when, and what that we're talking about when we talk about an APP, an Academic Proxy Pod. So, who are we talking about? So, first of all, we're talking about a few parents agree to form a pod, a small group of kids. These would be trusted parents, parents that you together trust other parents. All right. And you keep the pod size to no more than about 7 kids. Research shows about 7 kids is probably where you want to be. Probably less is better. Okay. Parents have to agree on the ages and the grades of those kids that will be in those pods. Parents agree on a proxy to watch the group. That would be like a former teacher, a trusted parent, somebody that you know and would trust with your children. And we're encouraging you to not hire away a teacher who's already involved with schools. We don't want proxy pods, academic proxy pods, to pull away the resources from anyone else's school. So find a former teacher, a substitute who maybe isn't working, a tutor, a trusted parent. All right, let's talk about the where of an academic proxy pod or an APP. Where do these things happen? So they can happen in a number of places, but first of all, parents have to agree on a safe place for that pod to meet. Where is a safe place that your kids could meet? Could be in your home with other kids, of course. In an office area, maybe with your employer, if your employer would let you do that. At US Staffing, we're also doing this in one of our open areas. Maybe there's a community center someplace where you're at that you could use some spaces there to put an academic pod, or maybe two in there. Churches are a great place to look as well. Churches oftentimes during the week have lots of open spaces, and perhaps they'd be willing to let you put an academic proxy pod for one or two pods in their churches. Wherever it is, work out an agreement with the building owner to make sure you meet their requirements, and talk about cost and that sort of thing, so you understand all that before you commit to where you're going to have your academic proxy pod, your APP. All right, so let's talk about the when of an APP. When do these things happen? Well, so parents agree on a time to meet. Again, this is a parent-driven solution. So parents, you get to decide when these are going to happen. Are they going to be morning only, afternoon only? Maybe it's an afternoon evening pod. If you're working second shift, for example, maybe it's all day. But the point is, parents have to work that out with the proxy to figure this out. You're in charge of when your pod meets and for how long. And depending on how long you meet, you may need more than one proxy. Maybe one proxy can't handle the entire time period. All right, so you might have to get two or three. All right, let's talk about the what. What's the material in a proxy pod look like? Well, first of all, use the school's curriculum. That's our highest recommendation to you. Don't go off on your own and buy other stuff. Use the school's curriculum that's being put together by the quality teachers in your school district. Be sure to follow your school's guidance. Don't go rogue, all right? Stick to the plan that they're giving you to educate your children. Just do it together in an academic proxy pod, an APP. Let the school know that your children are working together in a pod, though, that they may be able to make some adjustments or help you out with that. And it's okay to have kids from different schools in the same pod. Again, though, work with the proxy with that in mind. And you got to keep in mind the proxy is there as your proxy. The proxy is for you. And so this proxy will be delivering the curriculum to your children in this pod, as well as working with the school maybe to report some problems or things that might be going on. All right? So that's the basics of an academic proxy pod. So what would your next step be if you want to move forward? We've outlined it pretty simply. If you go to usstaffingagency.com, you go to our resource wall, and then on that resource wall, we've got a starter kit. You download the starter kit. It's got some questions you should think about, some questions you should answer, kind of like some guiding principles for you to form your own APP. You do that, you get going. Now listen, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, Jim Dolson, at jdolson@usstaffingagency.com. Listen, we know that these are tough times, but we also know that if we work together, we can figure out how you can educate your kids at home while you need to during this time period and still get to work.